Welcome back to Outside the Box, a podcast where we unpack the impact of business relationships. I'm Vanessa Griffiths,
And I'm Olivia Vualta.
and we are the co founders of Gift Better Co. and also your podcast hosts. And this week, we are talking about the power of momentum, how to build on momentum to grow your business, how to create momentum in the first place. Olivia and I have many stories about starting momentum from seemingly nothing. I think that's most entrepreneurs' journey and really building on that to kind of take advantage of a stride in our business. So let's get into that. First, understanding what momentum is. To me, I always think of momentum as like the the speed ramps in Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're just cruising as fast as you can and then you hit
Mhm.
a really big accelerator essentially. And we've had quite a few of those within our business. There's one in particular that is massive, and I think that it's really important to be prepared to take advantage of those speed ramps whenever they come up, and that is something that I'm really proud of with us in our business, is that we've never hit one of those patches and been like, "Okay, we'll just cruise now." We're always,
Mhm.
like, kind of taking those as cues to keep going, double down,
I think
foot on the gas.
sometimes with momentum, you don't really have a choice but to take advantage of the momentum because it's like, I need to do this because of what just happened. Like, I need to execute on whatever opportunity just came up, and that almost, like, pushes you and it requires you to take advantage, and then sometimes I think momentum requires intentionality of, like, deciding, "What am I gonna do with this opportunity that I have in front of me?"
Mhm.
And I think we've experienced a mix of both of those, and we probably have stories about each of them, but I think it could be either or.
Yeah, that's very true, and being smart about the decisions that you're making. So, on one hand, I think in entrepreneurship especially, it's tempting to, like, jump on every opportunity that comes your way and try to have your foot on the gas in every single situation, especially in the beginning when there's not much happening otherwise and you're just kind of building in the background for a long time. But now especially, and I think as you come more into a routine or, like, become more comfortable with where your business is at, you have to be way more discerning about the
Yeah.
opportunities that you take and, like, what this big push might mean for you and your
Mhm.
team and whatever that may be.
It's like your gas tank is full and you only have so far that you can go, and if you're, like, pedal to the metal in every single opportunity, how sustainable is that really gonna be? So,
Mhm.
like you
Especially
said,
because
deciding.
yeah, especially because sometimes specific instances of intense momentum can take your business in a very different direction
Yeah.
from where you actually are.
Mhm.
So and that's happened to us before where we, like, get a huge opportunity, but it's, like, quite a bit outside of what we typically do.
Mhm.
And we sometimes it's like, we're gonna say yes to this thing, but that doesn't mean we're gonna go in that direction all the time
Mhm.
because we have to get back to being really great at what we actually do. And
Yep.
sometimes it's like seeing that opportunity and being like, "That would be so nice,"
Yep.
but it's so not what we do that we can't dedicate the time and resources to becoming this thing,
So we have to say no.
so we have to say
Yeah.
no.
And sometimes it's, you recognize that it's a really big shift in direction, but you take the time to figure out, does that direction and that shift make sense for our business? And I
Mhm,
think that's kind of a place that we're at right now, is seeing opportunities that pivot us a bit, but still keeping what we're amazing at our core, so
mhm.
that we're saying, okay, if we're shifting or offering a new service or doing something different, is does that still align with our values, what our customers come to us for, and, like, what does that mean for the business? So sometimes it does mean a shift, but it means taking the time to, like, actually think about and test if that shift is, like, really right for your business.
And I think it takes a level of confidence to be able to say no to things like that, and that's come a lot with time. I know in our business for sure, but even on a personal level, for me, as a when I was freelancing before we started this business, I was so my plate was so over full all the
Mhm.
time because I had a lot of momentum. Like, I did a good job, I met a lot of people trusted me with work, and I was in a position where I felt like, "How dare I say no to these opportunities that are
Mhm.
coming my way?" Which resulted in me being so busy and burnt out and, like, resentful almost of the things that were coming my way, even though I
Yep.
felt like I couldn't say no to them, and then eventually I gained the confidence to say no because I was like, "I don't need X, Y, and Z opportunity right now, like, this is not great for me right now, and so I'm gonna let the momentum be kinda status quo and, like, continue going with that for a while." But yeah, it comes with just confidence in, like, where you are and where you're going without these big, like, pushes.
So let's say you were to go back to your old self of like having so much on your plate. Is there something that you can suggest if people are in a similar situation to evaluate, like, what should I actually say no to? Because sometimes it's like saying yes to something that you're not comfortable with could be one of the best opportunities that you actually
Mhm.
take on. So, like, are there questions you would ask yourself, or how would you actually decide that?
Hmm. It's really hard to say in hindsight because I think that everything that I've done kinda built me up to where I am. However, there's a really great intersection, especially as a freelancer when you're kind of starting out, is like, is it aligned with where I wanna be in even a year from now? Like, is it aligned with the kind of work that I wanna be doing in the future? Does it pay me? Which I didn't think about a lot when I was trying to just get experience, and to
Yep.
be fair, many freelancers, when you're starting out, you can't think about, like, "Does it pay me well?" It's just like,
Yeah.
"I need the experience." But does it pay me? And is it realistic for me to get it do the job well within the time frame given? And how does it interrupt everything else going on in my life, whether it's other jobs that I'm working or, like, my life. At the time,
Yep.
to be fair, and, like, for most of my 20s, work was pretty much my whole life, so that was not really a factor. I
Mhm.
was just like, "Yeah, I'll just stay up later." Like, that was the biggest thing that I
Yeah.
had to consider, or wake up earlier or whatever. But yeah, it's that intersection of, like, is it serving future Vanessa? Is it paying current Vanessa? And is it, like, realistic? Can I do a good job? And is it actually gonna be a positive for my work reputation, or is it gonna detract because it means that I'm gonna not do a good job at this role or not do a good job in the other things that I have
Mhm.
going on?
I think something to add to that is considering the opportunity cost of making the decision. So, if I'm capitalizing on the momentum of this and this opportunity lands on my plate, what does that mean I'm not able to do by
Mhm.
saying yes to this or going down that path?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we come back to a lot in our business is, okay, this is a cool idea. It seems like it could have legs, but what does that mean for the rest of the business or the rest of this plan that we have
Mhm.
set out? Like, what needs to fall off? And I think you actually have like a personal advice that was given to you on that front of like saying yes to everything. Sometimes when your boss is asking you to do something or you're trying to take things on, if someone is asking you and you have this opportunity, communicating or asking yourself,
Mhm.
"What am I not doing
Yeah.
to take this on?" And making sure that either you're okay with that or your boss or your team is okay with that of like, "Hey, this is gonna fall off if this is something that I'm actually going for."
Yeah, and that comes down to having being really clear on your priorities. To know that, like, if I'm gonna prioritize this thing, then one of my priorities has to go because the whole point of a priority is that you're making it like, putting it at the forefront of your brain and whatever you're trying to do, and you can only have so many. So,
Mhm,
yeah, somebody decently early on in my career told me, like, "If you aren't clear on your opportunities, then everybody else's opportunities will become
mhm.
your own." And I was definitely in that pattern of just, like, saying, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And I was known as, like, the Vanessa with the can-do attitude, and Vanessa can get it done. But I was like, "Oh my god, how am I gonna get
Yeah.
this done?" And,
Now
like,
I have way
melting
too
down.
many things to
Yeah,
do.
melting down in the background, getting things done late that, like, I didn't weren't difficult, and it's not that I couldn't do them, like, the work was too hard for me to do. It was just
Mhm,
like, "I don't have time to get to this little thing because somebody just dropped this giant project on me,
mhm.
and I have to do that because I told them I would."
Yep.
Yeah, but that again comes with a lot of, like, practice and confidence in saying, like, "No, I have to do this first," or, "Yes, I can do this, but it's gonna have to be at this extended deadline and not when."
Understanding and communicating your priorities so that
Communicating is huge.
people you know what your priorities are and, like, I think that's where, like, going back to momentum and intentionality is if you are just going with the flow in this momentum and not being intentional about, like, asking yourself, "What do I have to do?" Things can get messy very quickly.
Mhm. For sure. And just going back to what I would tell past Vanessa, like freelancing Vanessa, something that I actually was very cognizant of all the time, and I think that it's something that we are cognizant of now, is like thinking sometimes it's not about the specific opportunity as much as it is about the person or the customer that is giving you that opportunity, and like weighing the relationship
Mhm.
versus the stress that might come with saying yes, even though you would normally say no.
Yep.
So, like, there are certain freelance clients that I had that, like, if they asked me anything, I would say yes because I either understood that they would give me more work and more projects in the future that were, like, very meaningful and
Mhm.
cool to me or whatever. And it same goes for clients right now. Like, we have certain clients who they've been with us from the beginning, and so, yeah, we'll do your like, we'll drop our minimums for you, we'll try to find something within your budget, whatever that is, because we put a lot of value in the longevity of that
Mhm.
relationship and, like, where we know it's going.
Exactly, and sometimes we have to say no, which I hate doing.
Yeah.
I hate doing, but we know that we have said yes to things that we should say no before too, and, like, we do them, and then when we're doing them, we
Yes.
are like, "What is this taking us away from?" Like, we
And
need to be sitting in our seat, and we need to be the CMO and the CEO of this company, and we are doing things that, like and that's startup life, like, you do things
oh,
that you
100%.
shouldn't be doing in your role, and that's okay, but, like, understanding that if you say yes to too many of those things, you will never sit in your seat, and it gets to be very chaotic.
And there's also, like, recognizing when like, saying yes to something that's maybe a little bit outside of your realm is going to be beneficial versus saying yes to somebody or to something, an opportunity, and the person on the receiving end of or whatever doesn't really value or recognize
Yeah.
that it's so far out of the realm, so it's
Mhm.
not like there's a relationship built, it's just like you
Yeah.
just overextended yourself for very, very short-term benefit.
Yeah. And
Um,
sometimes it creates an expectation, and that's what I think I'm always weary
yes,
of, like, if
for sure.
we say yes to this discount or this project that doesn't meet our certain criteria, what expectation is that setting if they don't know that that's a boundary that we've crossed to, like, help them?
Mhm,
Because then we're just disappointing them the next time when we
yeah,
say no.
for sure.
So, like, really understanding what that means to, like, the future of the asks from that person also.
Mhm. So let's talk about building momentum versus momentum seemingly coming out of nowhere, which I
Mhm.
think is not real. We've talked about this
Yeah,
before.
we have talked about this before.
It's not
It
like
really does feel like it is coming out of nowhere, because
right.
without even me and we've talked about this before, without even me thinking about it for a second, my instinct is to say momentum comes out of nowhere. Like, momentum is something that, like, you stumble upon and now you just need to go with it, but it's obviously not the case
Hard
because
disagree.
you can always find the, like, lineage of this led to this, which led to this, which led to this. I would say one piece of building momentum is being in as many places as you can be, and realistically of, like, if a lot of momentum I think comes from, "Oh, well, if I didn't meet this person, or if I didn't attend this event, or if I didn't
Mhm.
actually put myself out of my comfort zone to, like, apply for this grant or this whatever it is, then this wouldn't have happened."
100%.
So, like we were just talking about, like, understanding the boundaries of how much can I say yes to without burning out, without compromising something else that you need to do in your career, your business, or your, like, mental health. But understanding that boundary and taking as many of those opportunities as you can, I think that's where momentum comes from, is what feels like a chance moment, but you put yourself in the right place.
Yep. I think for a long time we thought about things that were happening with our business as luck, like, "Oh, we just got so lucky." And we are lucky in a lot
We
of
are very
ways, like
lucky.
pure luck in terms of like just really stumbling
Mhm,
upon the right people that gave us this little tidbit of advice that made us back out of a decision that we made or whatever. But I think that most of the instances of like, "Whoa, we just got this surge in momentum" was luck in the sense of preparation meeting opportunity,
mhm,
and, like, there are many of those opportunities or many of those instances where that opportunity could have came and we wouldn't have been
mhm,
anywhere close
mhm.
to ready, or the opportunity could have never come to us because the person that thought of us for that opportunity would have not even thought about us because they're like, "They're obviously not ready." Like, they
Exactly,
have no idea. I
exactly.
think that something that we don't account for enough, and we don't do it enough, but we also don't account for the fact that it has an impact, is telling people about what we do and what we've done and our progress, even though we do it in, like, a pretty small way right now. But the word of mouth effect of
Mhm,
just having being top of mind for people who are getting these random opportunities not presented to them, but just, like, hearing about these random
mhm.
opportunities and thinking of us because they know that we've done work with X company or they know that we've done a project of this size or whatever
Exactly.
is huge.
I that also brings me back to, and I won't retell the whole story because we obviously told it on the last episode, one of the previous episodes, about meeting one of the dragons from Dragon's Den, and, like, really what you're saying about luck being preparation meets opportunity is if the preparation piece, the luck piece is like, yeah, Wes Hall happened to be the keynote speaker at this event with Ottawa U, and, like, that's lucky. Like, we had no control over them bringing Wes Hall to this event.
And it got lucky that we happened to be standing beside his assistant and had a
Exactly.
great conversation with her without knowing
But
who she was.
but the pieces, and this piece, I think, also adding into the equation of luck is preparation meets opportunity meets relationships, because if we didn't have the relationships that we had with Ottawa U and the work that we put into having the relationships with Ottawa U, we wouldn't have been invited to the event. We wouldn't have been invited to the, like, private meet and greet room, which we didn't even meet Wes there, but then that's what allowed us to build a random relationship with Wes's assistant that we didn't know was Wes's assistant, but we still prioritized relationship building, and because that's in, like, our DNA and who we are, that relationship that we built then led to later when we left the room,
Mhm,
her wanting to bring Wes to come and meet us. And
mhm,
I think that that's, like, where that relationship piece is just so important in the opportunities that you don't think are gonna lead to momentum, is, like, every relationship could lead to something bigger. And they don't
yeah,
need to all lead to something, but when they do, like, you'll see when you look back at, like, which ones actually made a difference, and then going to that equation of, like, the preparation piece, when we did meet him, the relationship allowed us to meet him, but the preparation, like, if we weren't prepared and we didn't have our numbers ready, our GM, our, like, our whatever it is that he asked us, which he asked us a lot in that moment, the preparation is what allowed him to say, you know, like, "I'm really impressed with you ladies, like, let's have another conversation," or "I think you should apply for the show," or whatever it is.
mhm,
Like, the luck isn't what keeps the momentum going. I think it's like a spark, and if you don't have the relationship and you don't have the preparation, the luck won't make momentum.
yep. I also think, like, going back to relationships with what you said, yes, connecting with his assistant was a byproduct of who we are and our openness to just chatting kinda thing, but also, I think that networking and being at networking events is such a muscle that you need to just work on, and
Mhm.
it's something that we dread, truthfully.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not we don't dread it once we're there as much, but,
No.
like, the idea of walking into a room of strangers and having to make small talk and then explain your business and then hear about their business and then, like, hope that something organic comes of it
Mhm.
is, like, something that is not fun to think
No.
about hopping into, and so when Olivia and I talked ourselves into going to that event, it was a culmination of, like, we had been going to random networking events for so long, just forcing ourselves to go because we were like, "It is good for the business. It will
Mhm.
be good for the business in some capacity," and that is another piece of, like, we were just there because we had conditioned ourselves to be there,
Exactly, yeah.
and look what happened. Also, let's just give a 20-minute long shout out to U Ottawa because literally every
Everything,
everything
everything.
we would be nothing without U Ottawa, and amazing that you graduated from there because what would we do otherwise? To
Their
give
alumni relations team,
oh,
combined with their events,
incredible,
combined with their accelerator, like, entrepreneurship hub,
incredible,
has been insane.
insanely impactful in our business growth and our, like, just professional growth in general. I think,
Mhm.
like, so, so helpful.
Even looking at sorry to interrupt, but even looking at, like, the like, we've been in business for 4 years, and still now they've asked me to be the keynote speaker for their International Women's Day event, which, like, that hopefully will help them and help people, but it also helps us, like, as a keynote speaker, I have X amount of minutes explaining our story and our business and, like, being able to hopefully leave a mark on these women that are graduating and eventually will have a role in corporate, like, they're all business students,
Yep,
and eventually that can mean something helpful for the business, and
mhm,
that's Ottawa U again coming to us and that momentum of, like, just another opportunity that can help grow and, like, I I might be nervous to do it, but I have to say yes to the things that are like, yeah, this is momentum and this is something that is gonna be helpful for the business and, like, push myself out of my comfort zone a little bit.
mhm,
But because we've seen the proof of, like, what happens when we do that,
yep,
I think that's what makes those decisions a little bit easier each time.
100%. To give you the full story of U Ottawa, I don't even know where to start. It starts so far back.
Okay.
Before we even started the business officially, I don't think we had a name yet. I was at a conference for my job. So I had left my job, but they hired me as a contractor for all kinds of things, but one of them was events. So I went to a conference in Ottawa, SAS North, to stand at their booth and, like, tell people about the product because I guess I was good at talking to people. I don't know. But I was I had run into this guy who I knew because he would come into Foot Locker when I worked at Foot Locker in university, and he was friends with a couple of the guys that worked there, and we kinda recognized each other, said, "Hey, whatever." And then I was telling him about what I was doing at the conference, but then I was telling him that I didn't work there anymore. I had started my own business, or we were starting our own business, and this is what it was, and he's like, "You should definitely sign up for a startup garage at U Ottawa." And he told us about it, whatever, and so we did. I think the application had to be in December, let's say, and our business had just started. Like, we had just done our, like, pre-holiday sales, so we had maybe $1,500 in sales kinda thing, but we had a very clear vision of what we wanted to do with the
Mhm.
business, and I think that that is why they even bothered to call us. And, yeah, so we participated in Startup Garage starting in January. Our business was, like, 2 months old at the time, and through that, it was
Startup Garage is a University of Ottawa accelerator program, by
yeah.
the way.
It's an incubator program, so it's really starting from ground
Mhm.
zero in terms of business. You're building out your business model canvas, you're thinking about your ideal customer profile and kind of detailing that in great detail. You're really going through the fundamentals. It also connected us with our first accounting team, our first legal team. They helped us with incorporating. Fantastic. But from participating in Startup Garage, U Ottawa has, of course, incentive to promote the companies that they work for, or sorry, that participate in these programs, and so we ended up doing a project with them
Oh, yeah.
pretty quickly after that.
Gifting for their, like, entrepreneurship program or cohort or something like
Yeah,
that.
and I
Yep.
think maybe the budget was modest, but great for us at the time. It might have been 30 gifts kinda thing,
Mhm.
and not anything to write home about now, but at the time, again, huge for us. We were super excited to get another logo, and from there so our oh gosh. So from there, we kept working with U Ottawa on through the startup garage and then through Scale Up Garage, which is the kind of accelerator program that follows the incubator. And we kind of kept getting orders of, we did their virtual homecoming. gifts.
And we still do their homecoming
We still do
gifts,
their homecoming gifts.
which is still honestly a big project for us. Like,
100%.
now it's on par with the projects that we do, but it's definitely up there.
Yep. So we continued kinda going about our business, growing the business at our pace with a lot of help from Startup Garage in terms of, like, what to prioritize and what to do next and what
Mhm.
not to bother with kinda thing. And then over the course of that year, we kept working with U Ottawa on different gifting projects. And then
And then
when was this? February of
I
2021?
think yeah, we probably found out about it in, like, late January, early
Yeah.
February. So, we got an email from I think she was the marketing manager in the entrepreneurship hub, and she said, "Hey, there is a RFP, which is a request for proposal, which to anyone who doesn't know what that is basically when a big company is asking for business services that are worth X amount plus. So usually they are very big opportunities. They have to get multiple proposals so that there's no like favoritism over using one specific company and it's a fair process. It's a very intimidating process
Mm.
because an RFP is like they're asking you to make sometimes like 50-page document proposal without speaking to anyone. So they give you the request, which has a billion lines of criteria of what they're looking for, what's important to them, what you need to do. You don't get to speak to anyone. You can ask a question in the process that gets shared with everyone. So if you ask your one question, you get to see everyone else's one question that they asked. So you're trying to just understand vaguely what they need and write a response to the RFP, and it goes through like a multi-stage process. So Vanessa and I at that point got it and we were like, obviously we're not doing this.
But
Like,
back up. So forwarded it to us
yeah,
and said, "Hey, this opportunity is being floated around and is opening up soon. I think that you should apply. You'd be great for it."
yeah.
And we looked at it. We saw that it was for 9,600 gifts, and we were like, "No,
No,
we are not great for it, but thank you
no.
so much."
Yeah. And then I think we talked about it more. Still, like the net we're not great for it. Feeling never changed
No.
until the very end. But we said, we should apply for this so that we learn what an RFP process looks like. How do we make this? We'll have a template. So, really, we did it as like homework. Like, this is a project, this is practice. And then eventually we'll have a team. It was only me and Vanessa. Eventually, we'll have a team. Then we can apply for RFPs and be more confident about it. So, like, genuinely, it was practice. So, we start writing it. I would like to add context around the fact that what we do is custom gifts. The gift itself, every gift has like at least
6.
5 to 6. This gift had around 6 items in it. And we were in the actual height of the pandemic where you couldn't get things made of wood because there was a wood shortage. You couldn't get things made of like even for us to order gift boxes
Mhm.
was, like, hugely expensive.
Yeah.
First of all, shipping, getting things into the country was hard. There was, like,
Mm-mm.
ships being docked at wherever because they couldn't get through. Like, it was chaos from a supply chain perspective.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we prioritize working with small businesses as much as we can. The RFP asked for alumni-owned businesses. So take the pool of companies that we could work with. Now, these ones are
Shrink it
having
down.
supply chain issues. These ones don't have access to wood. These ones aren't alumni. And now these are the people that are alumni owned. And how many of those can actually produce 9,600 of an item?
Of
Because they're
anything.
a small business
Yes.
in the short time period that we were gonna have between
Yes.
the time that if we got awarded the project to actually turning around these gifts. So, I think our naivete is that the
Mhm.
word?
Love that. Yeah.
That's the word? Okay. I think our naivete allowed us to get the project because we were like, "All we need to do is find someone that says yes, because 'cause we're not gonna win this proposal." So they don't need to actually really.
But but they wanted the gift in hand,
Oh my god, I forgot about the
remember?
sample.
That was for
Yeah,
the second round.
yeah. We didn't really know about that
Right,
when we
right,
did
right,
the first
right.
one. So, I pulled Vanessa was writing the proposal. I was on the operations side of, like, I need to make a plan that really sounds like it will work. I need to find the suppliers and yeah.
I was just gonna say what we did first, because a lot of the proposal talked about prioritizing alumni-owned businesses and also reflecting the values of the students or of the
Oh,
school.
yeah.
And so to get things started, because when we're sourcing a gift, we can choose from the whole internet. So what we did first was surveyed a handful of graduates from U Ottawa to get an understanding of what it was that they cared about and what mattered to them. And we kind of like threw some values at them. We talked about different concerns for the future and had them rank them to get a feel for what would speak to the most people, because obviously we couldn't survey 9,600, but we tried to get a sample and have that kind of steer the direction of our curation process for that.
I think also in that survey, we asked a lot about I don't know if we've actually said what these gifts were for. It was for a virtual convocation because the
Right.
graduating class was work or not working from home. They were at home because it was a pandemic. And
No graduation ceremony.
yeah,
They were doing a virtual graduation ceremony and sending out a gift box along with their diploma to all
exactly.
9,600 grads.
So we also asked in that survey, like, you know, what are the things that you think would have been part of a convocation in person that
Right.
you
You're missing
are
out on.
missing out on and all of that. So the gift that we ended up coming to in terms of the proposal, did we give multiple options or 1?
For what?
Like, in the initial proposal of the gifts? I don't
No, I
remember.
think we only had 1
So,
because we could not source
no,
more
yeah,
than 1.
yeah, even the one was a struggle. So, the one that we landed on had a wood block that was like a pen and pencil holder that was engraved. The block was handmade and stained like a hardwood stain from an alumni-owned business here in Ottawa. It was engraved with the map of the U Ottawa campus so that they could, like, commemorate and remember their experience on campus. Then it had a graduation tassel. It had a confetti popper to, like, bring in the celebratory element of it, and the confetti popper was, like, U Ottawa branded. It had
A notebook and pen,
yeah, and
pencils.
one of the yeah, I think pencils as well, yeah. And one of the things that was cool is that from the survey and trying to understand the recipient that we were able to gather was they were missing out on that, like, experience of connection with the other students, which obviously, like, we couldn't change, but what we did was we had a little card that had a QR code on it. The card was plantable so they could, like, plant wildflowers, and that's another, like, way to remember their time at AutoU, but the QR code linked to a custom Instagram filter that we had created that had a little, like, U Ottawa graduation cap that came on your head and a little, like, flag or something
And it
like
said,
that.
like, Gigi's grads or
GG's.
something.
Yeah. So, that was our way of saying, this is the element of connection in a very disconnected ceremony.
Mhm.
So, we put this forward and definitely we're like, "Okay, thank God we're done.
This
Now we don't need to do
50-page
anything else."
document.
It was very intense. I don't think I slept
No,
very much for, like, a 2-week period while
no.
we made that. So then we get an email. You're expecting it to obviously say, like, "You're disqualified. We've gone with someone else." Now the email says, "You've made it to the next round." And I think we got 2 of those next round emails when we also, like, did not know how this process worked.
No idea.
So we didn't even know that there were rounds, we didn't know how many rounds, we didn't know when they were gonna make a decision. So every time we got this next round email, we were panicking, and they needed something else from us
Every
in
round.
the next round.
So that second round email was like, "Congrats, you made it to the next round. We need a sample of the box by next week," or something like that. It might have been 2
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah.
maybe, but it was, like, hand delivered on campus in 2 weeks, in the peak of this manufacturing crisis, supply chain chaos.
Oh my god.
Um,
I think my
Also
eye is twitching, like, literally thinking about the chaos of the sample box.
yeah, the sample box was insane because not only
Mm.
is, like, getting all of those items during that time was difficult, but in general, getting people to customize one thing is
Yeah.
difficult.
Even now, they won't do that. Like, we can't
No,
do that.
we
No
don't
companies will say, "Yes, I will make you one completely custom item."
no.
I think what we had the most trouble with was the actual physical mailer box,
Yeah,
like the You Ottawa branded mailer box,
I
because they
think
do very high quantities of that.
I think that box cost us $700 or something crazy to,
Yeah,
like, get everything made because we were
yeah,
just like, "How much will it take? Just please print
and get
one."
it rush shipped,
And rush
and
shipped, yes.
weren't we looking at, like, flying to Boston or something, or driving to Boston to pick it up because they couldn't get it to Canada fast
Yeah,
enough?
we were looking at a lot of things. It
And
was
it
a
was,
crazy
like,
time.
down to the wire of the day, like, the box was arriving, and I think we had to drive it to
Yep,
U Ottawa, like, that day or the next day or something like that, and
mhm.
if there was any delay,
It was not
and
working.
it was like a timestamp, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah, they're
timestamped the
not taking it.
receipt of this sample box, and
Yes,
if you were a minute late, I mean,
disqualified.
maybe there was flexibility, but we weren't trying
Yeah, no. So we ended up getting that together somehow,
that was
and
not
then we just sat and we're still even after the 2nd round, we're like, "Whew, that was an intense RFP, but great experience."
yeah.
So glad we got that experience. Never doing that not never doing it again, but, like, now we know for next time.
Mhm.
Cool. Then we get another email.
I keep forgetting all the, like, future elements of this story. That's nuts.
What do you mean the future
Oh my
elements?
god. Like, when we actually got the RFP. Spoiler
Oh,
alert.
yeah, wow.
We got the
Um,
RFP. Was the
but
next email.
but it wasn't that. No, it wasn't.
What was it
Because then
next?
they wanted a detailed price breakdown. They wanted the shipping costs
Oh my
of
god.
78 different countries. They didn't know what the, like, spread was between the different countries, but we had to give a detailed estimate of the shipping costs, which we had no idea. We were
No.
guessing.
I don't even
We're like,
think we had a
"Okay."
shipping contract.
No, we didn't. We were opening up our shipping contracts with different shipping companies at that time because
Mhm.
we had 9,600
Mhm.
gifts. We're trying to figure that out. We were also trying to figure out what at that point, we hadn't gotten it, but we're like, "It's getting very close to when we
Yeah.
would need to ship them, so if they tell us that we get it, where are
Where
we
are we
gonna
doing?
do this?"
We did not have a warehouse for context. We the warehouse we're sitting in now, like, there's a black shelf behind Vanessa. Literally, I think that one with the tape ripped off of it, it said Olivia.
Yeah, we had one
We
little
had one shelf, and the rest was in my living room still,
no,
or
we
we
were
had
packing
slowly
over
moved.
there
Okay, yeah, we had a small corner that we were, like, packing the gifts in and a shelf that we kept
in a
stuff on.
co-working space, essentially, like,
Yeah.
we're sharing it with another company, and we've basically taken it over now.
Yeah.
So we weren't getting confirmation that we got the project, we were getting so much back and forth on the cost, the whole time panicking, like, "Did we get it or not? Because if we
Mhm.
did, we need to start
And
ordering
we kept
things."
telling them that, like,
Yes.
"If we don't have a PO by this date, like, we can't."
But the PO wasn't even in the conversation yet because we still didn't know if we got it. We, like,
True.
weren't sure if they were doing that with
Oh my god,
4 other
true.
people. Like, I
True.
remember being at the cottage and being like, "Well, they just asked us another question. Does this mean can we
Yeah.
celebrate now?"
That was our line of, like, the whole however long that whole period was,
"Now can we celebrate?"
"Now do we celebrate?" Oh, did we celebrate?
No,
I
we
think
didn't
there were too
because
many
we were
moments of,
so
like,
stressed out.
yeah.
So, we didn't get confirmation until, like, a month and a half before it needed to be things needed to be shipped,
Mhm.
basically, which, again, supply chain issues, that was a crazy ask to get 9,600 of anything made, let alone 5 different items, plus the box, plus enough crinkle paper, plus finding the space. So
Plus, all the suppliers are messaging us, like, daily
oh,
saying,
yeah,
"Hey,
because
what's going on? I can't do this
I can't
anymore
meet
if
your
I don't
deadline.
have the yes."
Yeah, so that's a big deal too, is, like, we were getting quotes from people, and imagine any company, no matter how big or small the company is, if they get an inquiry about, "Hey, can you print or make 10,000 of something?" Like, that is a business-changing email to
Mhm.
receive, no matter what size of company that you are. So, they were following up with us being like, "Hey, is this happening? I need to arrange to make this many things, whatever, whatever."
Even the big company that made
Of
the branded
course.
items, they were worried.
Yeah,
And I was like,
exactly.
"If they're worried, this guy has
The
to
mill,
hand cut 9,600 blocks, and then she
stain
has to
them.
etch them, stain them." I remember she was like, "We need time for the blocks to dry
Oh,
after
no,
we stain
we
them."
did not have time for
I
the
was like,
box to
"No,
dry.
you etch that wet."
I was wheeling them in here, and it was like the boxes were covered in oil, remember?
Literally, the boxes were, like, soaked on the
Yeah,
outside.
yeah.
That was nuts.
So, eventually, after going back, we did so much negotiation before we even had an understanding that they had chosen us. Like, they
Yeah.
never even said it until they were like, "Okay, thanks. We're gonna send you a."
Yeah, they acted like we knew
No.
already, kind of?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
a congrats email would've been good.
Mhm.
No, we never
Also,
got
shout
that.
out to my dad for, like, the negotiation and financial modeling that he did, which helped us, obviously, with, like, how we price things out now, but that
Yes.
was chaos.
Huge. So, I don't even know. Is that the momentum part? Like,
So, okay, that was the being we weren't prepared for the opportunity,
no.
honestly.
No,
Like,
no,
what did
no.
we do? I guess we took a chance to do something that, like, we thought we weren't ready for,
Yeah.
is the biggest thing, and then had to get prepared, had to figure it out, like
I think by the time we had gone through the process and, like, because it was so staggered, every element of it, we were stressed the whole time, but we were finding real answers and, like,
yes.
coming into problems and finding solutions. Like, one of the vendors dropped out, and we're like, "Oh, no, we have to find another one and, like, really make sure that they can meet this deadline.
Mhm.
If we tell them yes on this day, can they still deliver by this day?"
A lot of
So
work back schedules.
yeah, so by the time we actually got the project, it was like, "Okay, we understand that all of the things can arrive in time,
Mhm.
but if 9,600 of 5 different items arrive, where will they arrive? Where do we put them,
Oh
and
my
where
god.
do we pack them?" And that was our
So at
biggest.
this point, to give like more context of the warehouse space, so we share our warehouse with my fiance, who his company was like at that time they were doing YouTube unboxing videos. So he would order like a mystery palette of random Amazon packages and unbox them on camera for his YouTube channel, which meant the warehouse was like literally filled, and it's 4,500 square feet, filled of random things like a crossbow, paintball guns, a toy car, like those ride along cars, like actually random things. So at the time, using the space that we're in now was not an option because there just wasn't enough space. So we started looking for a warehouse. So
To put it into perspective for how much space that we needed, the boxes alone coming arriving to us flat was 19 pallets stacked about 4 feet
just
high.
the outer mailer box.
Yeah, that's not even starting to get into the individual items. So we needed a lot of space to be able to receive everything. Then we needed space to have room to lay things out and pack them.
And I think something important to add to that too is like we started looking for warehouse space. And first of all, we don't know how much square footage we need because we've never done this before. We also don't want to sign a lease for a space that's big enough that we think that we need because then we're paying a crazy amount. And we always knew when we took this opportunity that like the pandemic will hopefully not last forever. This is probably a one-time thing, which it did end up being a one-time thing, and we had to treat it that way. So, like, post this project, are
Yeah,
we gonna be carrying monthly rent bill that's
$16,000 a month rent.
nuts?
Yeah, and that's a lesson. I think that there is a version of myself that would have been riding the high of that momentum and been like, "Yeah, sign the lease. We're doing it." We actually literally were going to.
No, but at a very good price. Like, that lease that we signed, we would have been able to carry that.
Oh, that one, yeah, but I'm talking about the other spaces that we were looking
Oh,
like, we were looking at real warehouse
yeah.
spaces, seeing the price of them and being like, "I
Is
guess."
this what we do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, we didn't. So eventually, what we did was we found a space in the same like mall that we are currently in. It was in the basement. It was huge and it was like the old extra storage of a really big department store. It was freezing cold because they didn't even have heat that came into this space.
It was contaminated with asbestos
Yeah.
also.
There were a lot of things wrong with it, but we said, "We'll figure it out." They said, "The asbestos, if you don't disrupt it, is not a problem, and the heat will" we said, "We'll buy a lot of space heaters." Like, it was 12,000 square feet. What did we think we were heating with a space heater? Especially knowing, like, our warehouse now is cold,
Mhm.
and those heaters don't do very much.
No.
So anyways, we signed the lease We sign the lease for the space. We give the lease back to them. We give them our deposit, and we are getting the keys on the Friday. All of the pallets for everything is arriving on the Wednesday. So we Friday, like, time is ticking. We needed to spend the whole weekend setting up this warehouse so that we were ready to receive the pallets. So we are waiting. Another hour goes by, we don't get the keys. Another hour goes by, we don't get the keys. 5 p.m. hits, and I get a call from the person that was helping us negotiate the lease for the warehouse. And he says they don't want to rent the space anymore. So obviously, we panic. And in that moment, I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And I notice my stomach starts hurting. And I was like, okay, Olivia, like, you're obviously just stressed. Like, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. Then it starts, like, very quickly hurting a lot more, and I'm thinking, like, "Okay, this is gonna pass, it's just the stress." But at this point, I'm not even thinking about the warehouse because 'cause I'm starting to be in so much pain that, like, the warehouse is not my problem anymore. I'm barely able to walk around the block. Try and go for a walk around the block, can hardly make it, I'm, like, keeled over. By 11 PM, I go to the hospital, and by 7 AM, they tell me that I need emergency appendix surgery, which, like, I don't think was caused by, like, the stress. I think it was, like, a very weird coincidence that that all happened at
Very
the same time.
strange.
Because, like, I mean, maybe the stress of the whole RFP, like, didn't help
I don't
my
know.
body in
Is
general,
there
but
a
I think
connection between that?
it says, like, there could be, but
Mm.
I really think that it was just a coincidence because I was fine. Anyways, had to go into surgery, and now we have no space.
Yep.
I'll let you take it from there.
I don't even know where there is to take it. We spent that weekend,
You and Sean.
Sean and I, looking at a couple of different spaces, and either they wouldn't work because they were a little bit too small, or most commercial spaces require a 3 to 5 year lease, which we were like, "I don't know where the business is gonna be next year, let alone in 3 to 5 years, that's crazy." So we were really hesitant to sign things, and then I think Sean took pity on us and was like, "Let's reevaluate what we could do with the warehouse since you do not have
His
any
space.
options."
Mhm.
Yeah, his face. He's like, "You don't have any options, and we can probably figure something out." And so it turned from looking for warehouse space to, like, cleaning up this warehouse
And how
with
do we make this
very
warehouse
little time.
still work? Like, this warehouse, even after cleaning it up, still
No.
we were worried about having enough space.
Yeah. So we had to rejig some things. We got blessed by a man who was able to help us set up pallet racking. We became
Bought a stacker machine.
yeah, we bought a pallet stacker machine. We did what we needed to do. And that is a good example of, like, momentum taking you into very foreign territory. I've never stacked a pallet in my life until that point, and then now I'm an expert, honestly. I'm the only one that I feel should use it.
Yeah.
Largely
Yeah.
because you couldn't do anything
Mhm.
because of your appendix, like, you couldn't even lift boxes, which was also a hindrance?
Yeah, I couldn't lift anything, so we had all of our family come, friends, and basically spent the weekend trying to clear out the random things that were in this warehouse. A lot of, like, donation trips, garbage trips, recycling
Yeah.
trips to just, like, empty things out, and honestly, the, like, angel that we did not know at the time, someone that was trying to help us knew this guy that, like, managed warehouses, came in and, like, I don't think we would have been able to ever figure out even honestly, we wouldn't have even thought about putting up racking to, like, get height and be able to
No.
do that if we didn't have that, so, like, all the people that we had at that time that were throwing ideas our way were so incredibly helpful.
Very.
And I was useless. I just walked around and, like, tried to
Yeah, and I just followed her telling her to sit down.
yep.
Yeah.
So then things arrived.
Yeah, we had by the time things started arriving, we had, like, come to terms with the fact that we got the deal. We were still kind of stressing at that point. I mean, I guess maybe not by the time things had arrived, but, like, there was also that gap between getting verbal confirmation that we got the deal and, like, getting any contractual guarantee that they would
Mhm.
pay us, and we had to front so much of the inventory costs, which was scary, and, like, that was a huge, like, taking into account the opportunity versus the risk of putting hundreds of thousands of dollars out into the ether and, like, hoping obviously, the university paid us and
Mhm.
whatever, but, like,
We needed a
there was that
PO to
limbo.
get financing to be able to buy all these things.
Yes.
The PO was
Took
taking
Yeah.
so long.
Yep.
Eventually got it. We were able to obviously secure everything, and
I
for
think from there, like, the packing of the gifts was the easiest part because it took a lot of, like, mental jigsawing of trying to figure out the best way to form assembly lines or whatever, but once we had, like, done all the other things, that was just like, "Okay, we know how to pack
Mhm.
boxes.
Yeah,
Worst case, like,
yeah.
we can do this."
And that was very fun for, like, me personally, especially because I physically couldn't lift anything, but my, like, past jobs, operational efficiencies and, like, finding the best and most efficient way to do things was a big part of it, so I had a lot of fun, like, actually, like, time stamping, like, calculating the time and, like, finding the best way to do things, and eventually figured out, like, "'Kay, we know how long it takes to pack this box, we know how long this is gonna take, we know how to schedule the shifts," and that was a huge, huge learning experience for us to be
Mm,
able to move into, like, high volume gifting, and that's a big part of what we're experts at today is, like, we know that a lot of other gifting companies out there can't handle the volume that we can handle because we went through the pain points and the exercises of, like, actually having the opportunity to figure out how to do that.
yep. Let's talk about how we built on that momentum and what that meant for the business. Obviously, that contract is our biggest contract to date by a long shot with the huge uptick in revenue, and we were a year and a half into our business at that point?
Around that, yeah.
Yeah. So, a year and a half into the business, we got a contract that was worth more revenue than we had generated at that point in the business, and up came the question of what do we do now? What do we do with the cash that we have? What do we do with this momentum that we have? How do we
Mhm.
build on it to make it seem like less of a fluke?
Yeah. And I think that's where our one of our specific mentors really came in to help us is like, okay, now we have money. Who do we hire? What role do we hire? How do we hire that person? What do we look for? And like what are the metrics that we need to keep in mind when we have this person on board? Like the mentorship piece I think played a really big role in what do we do with this money and the next steps and like where do we take the business from here? I think that in terms of momentum also helped us because we had real revenue to put on paper, applying for grants, applying for programs that we wanted to be in, being taken seriously. We finally had like a real number to use and to give people when we were having those conversations, which
Yeah,
like allowed us to kind of have a seat at the table, like kind of being taken more seriously, especially in the gifting space, which is often like, oh, loop eggs and Etsy. That just gave us more credibility,
for sure.
which I think was really helpful. But
It gave us a lot of confidence as
definitely.
well.
Yep. Yep.
Like, a li like we talked about, the whole "do we celebrate now" thing that happened throughout the process of the RFP and winning it and then executing against that was a thing, but I think that it also would have I don't even think we celebrated anything up until that point. Like and we
Yeah.
had been running the business for a year and a half
Mhm.
because we were always just like, "What do we have to do next? What do we have to do next? We have
Mhm.
to figure" and that is how a business like, starting a business is, like, none of it feels that,
The
um
point at which you should be celebrating.
yeah, because there's, like, a million other things to do, but it having having done that was a huge confidence booster of, like, "We thought we were doing this for experience, and somebody said, 'Yeah, you girls
Yeah.
are the ones to do this job,'" which was crazy.
That makes me feel like I'm gonna cry.
Aw, yeah,
Like, so many moments we have where other people believe in us, and we didn't fully believe in ourselves, and, like, if those people didn't believe in us, like,
yeah.
where would we be now? Anyways, let's change the subject before
Don't change the subject. It's true. We and, like, believe in us to the extent of floating that opportunity by us because we never would have seen it, ever. Believe in us in the sense of, like, yeah, trusting us to do that job is crazy, but I think that that's something that we've gotten better at over time is, like,
for sure.
not needing to be able to see the whole thing through, like,
Mhm,
from where we're sitting,
mhm.
and just being able to take step 1 of something,
Yep,
and that RFP process really taught us that, is, like, literally forcing that initial momentum of y on your own, even if, like, you can't really see where
where
that
it's
might
gonna
lead.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. And it same goes for when we hired our first employees with an S, because we had to talk ourselves into hiring somebody because we're like, "I don't even know if we're ready, like, this if we have what are they gonna do?
Mhm,
Who's how do we manage people when we don't even know what we're doing?" And then throughout the interview process, we recognized that, "Oh, hiring 2 might make more sense," and we just doubled down
yep,
and hired 2, which I'm really thankful that we did, and since then, it's been a lot of, like, learning and growing in the employer-employee capacity, but I think it's the same thing, like, we just need a little bit of a push at the beginning, but
mhm.
once we get started or once we, like, rationalize that, "Okay, we're just gonna take 1 step and it doesn't have to mean anything."
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and then just let the momentum build where it is and trust in the preparation and
Mhm,
trust in the work that we've done, like, I was talking to my favorite person, my therapist, about this the other day, about how, like, a lot of the times, like, success isn't like, when you look back on what made somebody successful, it's not, like, one big thing that
mhm.
pushed them over the edge or whatever, it's often just, like, the result of
A collection
years
of
of daily steps forward and some days of nothing happening and some days of setbacks, but it's just, like, consistent effort in
mhm,
the direction of whatever their goals are, and that is literally that explains every element of momentum that we've ever had has been a result of us, like, just working toward something, not really having an idea of where we want it to go, but knowing that we don't actually know where it's going and just
mhm.
doing the things that we think we need to do anyway, and then stuff falls in our lap, and we're just ready for it because we've been doing all of the things that we need to do.
Something else that I think comes with momentum is, like, the things that you might not connect as momentum to that experience
100%.
of, like, if we didn't have the momentum of the Ottawa U project to push us to learn what we needed to learn and, like, to try things and to have the proof for ourselves that, hey, if we put ourselves out there in situations where we're uncomfortable, something good might come of it. We learned how to do that and gain the confidence, and I
Mhm.
think about, like, even just little moments of the last day at our conference in Nashville. We're at an event and we were talking about, like, expanding into the States and what do we do and where are we gonna find a warehouse space and how do we maybe there's we had said, "Maybe there's just someone that has some extra warehouse space." And
In this conference of 5,000 people, there's gotta be somebody.
on the last night of us being there, so there was this person that we had met and we kept crossing paths with them, but we didn't actually know them. And we walked up to them, we had, like, just had a, like, quick encounter, and we went back, and Vanessa said we're like, "Oh, why don't we just ask people, like, randomly?" Which is so weird when you think about it, because it's like, why are we just going up to random people asking them if they know someone with a warehouse with extra space in it? But the first person we asked, this guy, we are like, "Hey, do you happen to know anyone in, like, Rhode Island or something?" Where is he from? Rhode Island?
Connecticut.
Connecticut? That has a warehouse with extra space? And he's like,
He
"No."
said, "Does it have to be Connecticut?"
Yeah.
And we're like, "No." He's like, "Okay, 'cause this girl."
This girl actually has a warehouse, and I think that she said that she has extra space. We were like, "What?
What are you talking
What do you
about?"
mean?"
He tapped her on the shoulder, and he's like, "She runs warehousing and distribution company or something like
Mhm.
that. You should
So,
chat."
we chatted with her, she's like, "Yeah, we do have extra space. We can also do your kitting and whatever," and it didn't end up working out with that relationship, but that led us to then asking more people, "Hey, do you know a 3PL? Hey, do you know a trusted whatever partner that you've used for whatever it is?" And, like, now we're going to Denver and going to visit a warehouse, and that can potentially be our expansion into the US, which was something like expanding into the US was very intimidating for us. And it was always like, in 2026, we'll expand into the US,
Crazy.
which like just connecting those little moments
Mhm.
of if we didn't have the courage from the momentum of the initial experience, we wouldn't have probably put ourselves out there and thought maybe something random is gonna come of this.
Yeah. It's kinda like just 3, 2, 1, go. Like, and so much of it goes back to what's James Clear's book?
Atomic Habits,
Atomic Habits of, like, do the smallest version of that or, like,
2-minute version.
the 2-minute version,
Mhm,
and, like, if you simplify everything down in terms of what your big goal is, what is the smallest version of that? And it's usually just doing the very first thing that you can do,
mhm.
and
Ask
that
someone a question.
ask someone a question in our case, but yeah. And I think that that especially that is, like, so now when we're going back to WeBank in a couple weeks, we're still gonna be riding that momentum of like, "Oh, we asked a question and got an answer."
Mhm.
So I feel so much more confident going there now and just being more direct in our conversations with people and, like, having asks in mind that we can try to get help with because it's like, it worked once. It might
Exactly.
not work every time, but we can still capitalize on, like, the feeling that we got of, like, "Oh my god, somebody we had a positive
Mhm.
interaction, we got what we needed, let's do it again," and, like,
Momentum.
that momentum in and of itself is huge.
There's definitely something to be said about being able to do that together, and I think our relationship
Yeah,
allows us to find fun and funny moments in those,
gamifying things.
like, it gamifying and, like, 100%, that's just, like, our personalities,
Yeah.
and I almost now look forward to those scary moments because 'cause I'm like, "That was so funny," and, like,
Mhm.
it's obviously not a funny story just randomly hearing about it, but, like, we laughed all night
Yeah,
about, like, what the hell just happened? Like, those what just happened moments
yeah,
are, like, the best part of entrepreneurship.
100%. I always compare entrepreneurship, like, to a video game. Because you can be on a mission going in this direction, but then there's random side missions that could set you back quite a bit or could bring you so much closer to your end goal, and they're so fun
Mhm.
sometimes most of the time.
Yep.
Speaking of being really glad that we're partners and doing scary things together, what song are we doing in
No, no,
karaoke
no,
at
no.
WeBank?
We're not talking about this again.
Yeah, we are.
Vanessa has
No,
been on I
go ahead.
forgot that I'm, like, wearing makeup. I was rubbing my face.
Yeah,
Also, on a side note, do you see a bump on my forehead? Because I got
no.
a soccer ball kicked
Stop
on my head.
changing the subject, get back to karaoke.
We're not doing karaoke. We're not doing I can't.
You can.
No.
Just do the
I,
two-minute
like, honestly
version.
feel uncomfortable talking
I can
about it.
see
Like, I'm
you
hot.
scratching
I'm
your
hot.
neck.
No.
Okay,
No.
so here's the thing. The most memorable people at that entire conference last year are the ones that did karaoke. I will never forget the Salt and Pepper girl that did an outfit change right after her karaoke set. I will never forget the man in the cowboy hat with the voice of an angel. I won't forget the 3 girls
Yeah.
from Liberty Mutual who did a TLC song.
I can't.
I think it's a really big lead gen opportunity, and it will be so fun.
So what song is in the running? Like, number 1 front runner?
Number 1, for us as a duo, I don't really have any. Like, I have many, but I don't have a number 1 because we know so much of the same music, like, we could choose anything.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but stay tuned.
I would really like
We'll
for it
see
to
how many drinks I have that event, how I'm feeling. Dead
just
sober, not happening.
obviously not. Obviously not. It would be so fun. Imagine the
Oh.
rush after you get off stage, you'll be, like, euphoric.
There would be a rush of that, "What the hell
100%.
did I just do?"
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but then
And
there's the
then you
panic
get
of, "What the hell did
and
I
then
just
you
do?"
build on the momentum of, like, I can do anything.
And the momentum of, like, the conversations of,
Yes.
like,
People
random
coming
people
up to you
coming
to
up
say,
to
like,
you,
"Hey, those are those
"Wow,
2 girls who
your
sang
Ja Rule and Ashanti duo was
Come on
crazy."
Eileen."
It's nuts. Anyways, that does fit the theme of momentum.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
So, if you have any
Suggestions? DM
drop
us.
your go-to karaoke song
Yeah.
in our DMs or in the comments and try to encourage Olivia to do it because it would be doing a great service to the business, and it would be
I
so fun!
I'd say that's where we wrap it
And we
up for
don't know
today.
these people.
We don't know them.
We never have to see them again until next year, and they'll forget about it by then. if it's bad. There are ones that are forgettable, like, I remember some people going up and being like I was like, "This is boring now." And I
The
just
song
don't
was
remember.
too long. The song was it was going on, and it's like, "Hey, I think you anticipated the chorus being
Oh, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
the hype of the
Oh,
chorus being the
yeah,
whole song, and
and
then
they
it's
weren't
like
ready for
4
the verses
minutes
at
no,
all?
no.
Yeah. So, like and those people, it's like they were bad, but we just don't remember them. I literally can't remember their faces.
Yeah.
So it's only the good ones that are remembered. We'll just be a good one, or we'll be forgettable.
Vanessa's been trying to convince me on this for 2 months now?
I think it's the lead gen opportunity that's the most underutilized in all of marketing, so
I'll think about it.
sweet. Do you wanna end it off with a question?
Sure.
Okay. Should we each ask each other a question, or do you wanna both answer the same card?
Let's
Both answer maybe?
Sure.
Just so we don't go through all the cards immediately.
Has your life turned out differently to what you expected?
Oh my god, yeah. Of course.
Tell me about it.
My life has it turned out differently than what I imagined? Yes and no. I think, like, I wrote in a journal a really long time ago that my dream life was, like, me being a CMO of a company, but not my own company. I didn't have that, like, in my head yet. When I always thought about my dream life, I imagined, like, having a family eventually, but it wasn't part of my dream life, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. I kind of always knew that I would have one, but it wasn't core to my like, what I
What you
wanted most
Mhm.
for myself. I wasn't daydreaming about that aspect of it, but, like, my family life is so important to me now, and, like, I didn't expect because I didn't imagine it, but I didn't expect to love being a mom so much. I many other aspects actually, redo this whole question, yeah. I'm, like, thinking about it, like, aside from
Mhm.
my family, which is, like, just a part that I knew that I would have, but didn't really, like, daydream about being a mom, which I love more than I could ever imagined. I thought that I would have kids late because I was like, "Oh, no, I have to, like, live my whole life and then have kids." But now that I have one, I'm so happy that I had him when I did because having him around for all the stuff that's
Mhm.
going on, and it makes me so proud that he can witness the stuff going on, even though he doesn't understand what the hell's going on. He thinks we work at the North Pole, essentially. That is the biggest difference, but everything else, like, when I was a kid, I wrote in journals about, like, being strong as being important to me, which is, like, being an active person, which is a big part of me now. Being a CMO was always weirdly a vision of mine. Writing a book, which I'll do eventually, I'm sure. Before I could articulate, like, exactly what I wanted, I
Mhm.
had hunches and knew what I wanted for myself generally, and it kinda just shaped into exactly what I wanted for myself so far.
That's great. For me, I would say my life turned out definitely differently than expected. I talked about this in a different episode, but, like, never had any entrepreneurs around me, so it wasn't even a consideration or, like, in the realm of what I was thinking about. So, from a career perspective, for sure different. I wouldn't have even thought of it. I think at one point I wanted to be a lawyer and then an engineer and then, like, what everyone wants to be, and then eventually a CMO. Like, thank God I didn't do that. We would not have made a good duo at that point,
Facts.
but yeah, it definitely turned out differently. Personal life, like, it did turn out differently, but, like, I don't think that I gave so much thought to what that would be, kinda like what you were saying. So, yeah, I don't know. I think differently also in the sense that I, at one point, thought I would definitely be living in another country
Yeah.
and I wouldn't be in Ottawa, which I had that opportunity come about. I had a job offer in Australia and ended up turning it down to be with my family and my friends and my partner, and so which I'm so happy that I made that decision, but I think that would be another aspect of where I probably thought that I would. I'm
Yeah.
very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, me too. I think the biggest thing is, like, I didn't really have expectations
Mhm,
for my life.
mhm.
I just kinda, like
Had some ideas for careers.
yeah, I always just, like, followed hunches and, like,
Yep.
went in the direction that I felt was right.
Mhm. Good question game.
Good question.
Yeah.
Alright, so next week we'll discuss karaoke at length.
Oh my god. I will not be in attendance of that episode.
Alright. Okay, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Outside the Box. We will talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.